welcome back to my channel. This week I wanted to show you guys what I did for all of my weekly spreads for my May bullet journal setup. I actually got this idea in the middle of me doing my May setup since it was the Pokemon theme. And when I was going through all my inspiration posts to figure out like which drawings I wanted to do for that setup, by the way, if you missed that video, you can just like click the info card right there. I came across this series that I don't know who the artist is, but they did this series of all the eeveelutions, including just like the original Eevee, hanging by like their ears or some part of their body, but usually it's just the ears by like pin hooks, like clothing pin hooks. And that sounds a little bit morbid, but like here are some examples of some of the Eevees. And I thought it was super cute, so I wanted to try drawing those. And I thought the best spot to do that would be in my weekly spread, since there's more than, is there more than 4? How many did I do? Since there's 5 weeks in May, technically, because when I first went into May, like in the middle of the week instead of starting on a Monday, so I had to do that many weekly spreads instead of just like the regular 4. So obviously, as I'm sure you other Pokemon fans know, that there is a bunch of eeveelutions, way more than just 5. So I didn't end up doing all of them for that reason. So each weekly spread is one of my favorite Eevees and is themed around that specific eeveelution. And I made sure that each spread had a different design to it. So if you guys wanted to recreate them in your own genre of style, whether it be doing more Eevees like I did, or honestly any other specific theme, but just having that kind of similar layout, hopefully you'll get something out of this video. Without further ado, let's just jump right into it and I will show you all this hard work that I had to put in to do these drawings. Oh my god. So for my first weekly spread, I decided to start with Vaporeon since that eeveelution is my absolute favorite. And this was actually probably, I would say, the easiest of the spreads for me. Just because when I have less days to put into a weekly spread, it makes it a lot easier to space out and everything. So for this one, since I only had to do 5 days, to try to balance out the week, I made it have 11 dots or 11 spaces in between each day on the left side, and then on the right side it was 9 spaces. And Vaporeon ended up taking up a little bit more room than I anticipated, so that's why I had to have a little bit less space on the right side of the page. So since Vaporeon is the water type, I just stuck with rain and having a few Pokeballs just hiding, well, not hiding, but like balancing on the clouds, and kept it overall pretty simple. And for my weekly spreads, I started doing these mini calendars on the corners or wherever on the weekly spread I decide to put it, since I really like the look of just highlighting the week that it's actually focusing on. For Vaporeon here, I really should have drawn this Pokemon a little bit bigger on the page, because when I was drawing her, oh wow, sorry, I don't know why my lighting is being so weird. I think I really need to invest in a ring light. This is like quite not good. Sorry, apologies, it should set back to normal in a minute. But anyway, doing Vaporeon this tiny was really hard for me with the face, because even though I really like how she turned out, it's just was a bitch, excuse my language, but it was a bitch to draw the eyes and make it look still cute and dainty. Maybe it'd be easier if I was doing it as a digital art, but oh well. So flipping to the next one, I wasn't really sure what to do at first for this, so that's why so much of it is already done off camera. So I decided ultimately to add some more black, because I remembered seeing Amanda Rachel Lee do some bullet journal spreads last October with black paper, and I really liked that aesthetic, even though I don't have like the special white markers to draw on it, so I just stuck with a white pencil crayon. I just ripped some random black scrapbook paper that I had, did on the corners, and I used some scrap plain white paper and ripped all the edges for the calendar part and highlighted it with yellow, since Umbreon's colors are yellow and black. And I just used different colors of yellow that I had, only 2, there were 2 Tombos. I did leave the link in the description of the type of color they are, so if you're wondering and want to have that specific shade. And I thought I was missing this little something there, and instead of just having the clouds, so I decided to put a little rectangle of scrap paper that I had and decorate a little bit so it still fit with the theme, and have my top tasks of the week in that little corner. I ultimately only put 2 top tasks there, so that's why it ended up being really tiny, because I was trying to just focus on 2 videos, this one and another one for my other channel. Unfortunately, this week was kind of a bust because my parents needed me to do some other stuff that took trump over working on my videos. So my top tasks didn't end up getting done that week, but that's okay. You know, you live and you learn, it's fine. Drawing her, I had the most issue, and I wasn't really stupid drawing that line above the Wednesday. I wasn't thinking and thought that maybe, oh yeah, that's enough room, I'll just draw the line, and clearly it wasn't enough room. So if I could redo that, I would have just drawn umbreon first and then the lines, but hopefully if you guys decide to redo this, don't make my mistake. But this is probably my favorite drawing out of all of them, despite the black line. It took me the longest. I think it was about 4 to 5 hours. I was really struggling with making her face look like frustrated cute. For a couple different erasing times, it was just looking really angry, and I'm like, yeah, she looks a little annoyed, but like it's still really cute. So I'm glad I put in that extra effort to make the face just right. So moving on to my 3rd week, we are now fully balanced to have it full Monday to Sunday, and I squished it a little bit, but to make it still look kind of airy, I made sure that I put the flowing leaves in between each column, kind of where you would normally just draw a straight line, but I think having the leaves strategically there still makes it look airy and kind of random, but also helps space out the different days. So the count for each spacing of the top ones is pretty much just having 1 square in between each word. And same with the bottom half as well. I didn't have as much space for Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but I did really think that I didn't want to do as much on those days, so it wasn't a problem for me. It really depends on what days you're thinking you're going to be busier, so you could ultimately switch this up. So for Leafeon, I wanted to try to make it look as close to the picture as possible, since the other ones I didn't have quite the same color, so I was like, okay, maybe I'm gonna have to improvise some. And I didn't want to use the Tombow for the middle of her drawing here, so I stuck with my pencil crayons because I figure that's the safest option. And the gold actually looks a little bit weird here, but once I filled in the entire drawing, it worked great, honestly. I'm really pleased with how Leafeon turned out. Leafeon's not my favorite specific drawing, but probably the closest to Leafeon's actual colors. I would say close second favorite to how Umbreon looks. But I did ultimately decide when I was in the middle of drawing this to try to make the Pokemon a bit bigger than the first 2, since I was having so many issues making the expression on the Eevees look just right when I was making them that tiny, so I was hoping like maybe if I just make the dimensions a little bit bigger, it would help, and honestly it totally did. So if you do attempt to draw Eevees when you're not really great at drawing like I am, that came out wrong. I don't think I'm good at drawing. If you're a beginner like I am, helps to make the drawing bigger, so you're not like scrunching your face into this small little head, you know? Hopefully that makes sense. So for this last ending part, since I still thought it looked a little bit too white for my liking, I decided to distress the edges with green. Again, the exact stamp that I used for the outer edges will be linked down below. So moving on to my next spread, I decided to do Glaceon, mainly because I was like, okay, Glaceon's ice, and I can just do a bunch of snowflakes like I did in December. This is going to be super easy. So honestly, I haven't actually played with Glaceon, but I do like how pretty Glaceon looks. But I mean, if you've
watched a couple of my videos so far, you know how much I love blue, so of course I'm gonna have two of my favorite eeveelutions be blue. That's just how it's gonna be. So this one is way more on the simple side. I just used giant snowflakes as like the headers for each day of the week, and just added a bunch of doodles of snowflakes and mini yellow stars. So coloring in Glaceon was actually a bit of more of a struggle than I was thinking it was gonna be, just because I did have a lot of different blues, but the different colors that I was seeing people use on Glaceon wasn't exactly the colors that I had, and I still can't get into Michael's where I am, so I was stuck with what I had. So I really did my best trying to mix pencil crayons and markers and still being able to see the details of the outlines of my drawing. But overall, like, it's not bad, it's just I wish I had different blues so you could just see the details a lot nicer. And I'm not gonna lie, Glaceon's face for me was actually the hardest to draw. For some reason, the expressions still looked really angry, so it took a lot of tries. Thankfully, these pages in this bullet journal are way whiter, and they're not like the slight cream color of my first half of this year, because with how much I was erasing, it was totally would have taken off the color of the paper if I was in my other book. So when I was done Glaceon, I decided to add a lot more doodles of snowflakes and whatnot just around her, and I think it looked much better once I added that little bit of extra detail. So moving on to our very last spread of the month, I decided to try drawing Espeon. She's so freaking cute and kind of like the opposite of Umbreon. And since she is a psychic Pokemon, I decided to try adding in a bunch of different purples, and will be putting in blues to kind of make it look like the words of the week are being levitated. Because you know, like how psychic Pokemons can just like lift things up. I wanted to try to have that effect on all the words, and I think it worked, but I mean, that was the closest I could figure out how to do it. So I also decided to put in these tears around the corners like I did on Umbreon's page, just because they were like, not past tense, since these two eeveelutions are like their matching / opposite versions of themselves. I don't really know how to explain it, but you know, if you play Pokemon, you'll understand what I'm trying to say, hopefully. So that's why I decided to do that. And I wanted to have Espeon drawn on the side with the paper. I wanted to see if it would just add like a weird, cool texture to it. I think it looks pretty cool, but it definitely wouldn't have worked if I tried coloring her in with a pencil crayon instead of a Tombow. Does anyone have any tips on like coloring in with Tombows? Because I cannot figure out how to do it without making all these streaky lines, because I was just trying to go like super light, because I knew I was going to have to use this exact same shade of Tombow, but pressing harder on it so it just make it look like there's shadows and other lines of her. Overall, I think it looks good. I just wish that I knew how to color in properly so you wouldn't see all those like weird extra lines. Oh, fun fact, by the way, I forgot to mention, Espeon took me 3 hours to draw. I really want to get faster at drawing. But around the edges of these pages, I used this color of purple, and then on the edges of the ripped pink pages here, I used this color. After I was finished all that though, I thought that the page still looked kind of empty, and I wasn't really sure what else I could have drawn to emulate that she's a psychic Pokemon, so I drew way more Pokeballs than I probably should have, to be honest, and did the same thing around the Pokeballs as I did with the days of the week. And this time also for the little calendar up at the top left page, I decided to not put May again because I felt like it was starting to get a little redundant, and I thought, oh, maybe it'll look cute with just the calendar, and I think it worked. Alright, and with that, we are at the end, and here's my final flip through of all of my weekly spreads for May. This was the most drawing I've done for any of my spreads, and it really took me way longer than I would have liked it to, hence seeing the spreads pretty much filled out up until Espeon's page. But overall, I am very pleased with the end result.
Alright, so we're at the end of the video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm probably not gonna do this much drawing for setup for a bit, just because it took me way longer than I'd like to admit. These drawings took me a really long time. I'm glad I pushed myself out of this comfort zone, but like, oh, I need a break from drawing, so I think next month's gonna be more like doodle-based instead of like drawing-based. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. Hope you got some more inspiration for your weekly spreads. And if you recreated any of these, please tag me at Meraki_memories on Instagram. I would love to see them, especially if you decide to do eeveelutions that I didn't do, because I'd really like to see what you guys interpreted each Eevee's theme to be and try to incorporate like their powers and whatnot. So yeah, if you do, make sure you tag me, and I will see you guys at the very beginning of June for the next bullet journal setup video. Bye!